Hey, it's Yury Experience, and today I want to talk about my experiences with university systems of different countries. Again, if you follow me since some long period of time, you know that I studied at different universities in different countries. I studied at Saratov State University by the name of Nikolai Gavrilovich Chernyshev in Saratov in Russia, and also I studied at Technical University Dortmund. In both of these universities I studied medical physics, and except for that I did some lab work at Georgia Tech in Georgia, Atlanta in USA. On a couple of occasions people asked me, okay Yuri, what is your opinion, what system is better, what are the differences, and overall what is my opinion about all these systems. And I thought maybe it will be interesting for you too, which is why today we're discussing that. And we start with Russian universities. First, there are two financial systems, if you can say it like that. You can either pay for university, or if your grades were good enough during your school time, or actually by the exams at the end of the school, then you get the place for free, and also you will get some amount of money from university. Usually in Russia, universities are gathered in the state capital, with sometimes having branches in other cities or towns around the state, but you can have something like 5 to 10 universities at one city. About studying plan, I can speak mostly from my own experience, but based on my knowledge it also fits for the overall system. You have fixed studying plan. You get it at the very beginning, and there stays okay, in the first half of a year you need to do that, that and that. And then in the second half of a year you do that, and then you study for some period of time. There's no choice, no registration, no nothing else. You just have a static plan that you follow. Basically you don't have to visit lectures or some exercise lessons, or however it's called in English, but it is advisable because it will have direct influence on how the professor who leads that lecture or that subject will examine you. About that in a moment. Every subject is led either by a professor or by the person who is promoting, so who is trying to get his PhD. No students are working with other students, it's only kind of specialists. Russia has kind of well-rounded university educational system, because even though you have some specific subjects that are connected to your degree, you will also need to study general subjects. For example, I studied medical physics and I had general subjects. I had philosophy, I had Russian language, I had politics, I had something else, I can't remember everything. At the end of the semester you normally have exams, and if there were any practical lessons, then normally you have pre-exam before the main exam. Pre-exam is normally in written form, where you need to solve some tasks, some exercises. The main exam is normally held in oral form, and it is more concentrated on theory, not on practical aspect. One interesting part here would be machine guns, or that's how I like to call them. It's something like automatic grade. If you do something, some specific things that was defined by a professor, then you can get your grade automatically, being it A, B or C, depending on what professor said. And sometimes it is as easy as just visit all the lectures and then you will get your positive grade. Sometimes you don't need to have A, B or C, you just need to have positive or negative grade. And for example, in my case, for politics, I just had to visit all of the lectures and you don't really even need to listen. That is why, in my personal opinion, this general education that is done in Russia is a good idea, but it doesn't work. At least not with the system how it is right now. It just, you don't get anything out of it, in my personal experience at least. Now let's jump to Germany. In Germany, education is kinda free. Why I mean kinda, you do pay some amount of money, but it is rather low amount of money. When in Russia, if you pay, payment depends on the university and on the degree. Then in Germany, at least based on my knowledge, payment is different from state to state, but everywhere is something around 200 euro. which is not much and which is way less than in Russia and way less than in USA. Also in Germany, you don't really have a lot of universities at one place. You normally have like 2, maybe 3 universities at one city, and that's all. Or you can go to a different city, to a different university. Since Germany is so small, it doesn't really matter. A lot of distances here are not really a distance. Like if you can come there in 2 hours, then a lot of people are just like, okay, then I will go to that university. If that university is somehow interesting. Sometimes you cannot study some degrees at some universities, which is why you go to a different university, stuff like that. About studying plan. Here you can find 2 types of studying plan, fixed and not fixed. I personally had almost fixed studying plan. Almost all of my subjects were fixed, so I had some subjects in first semester, second semester and whatnot. But during some periods of time, I think during my 5th and 6th semester of bachelor, for example, I had a choice. I could just decide what I want to do. I just had to gather some amount of credit points. On the other hand, I know that students who study different degrees, they sometimes have completely flexible system where you can decide personally, do you want to do that subject right now, or can you do this subject right now, because maybe there are not enough places, so even if you try, you will not get a place, so you need to do that in next semester and stuff like that. Here, not as it is in Russia, a lot of exercise lessons are not done by professors or are not held by professors, they are held by students who just get some jobs. It's kind of a mini job for them. I personally did it for a couple of semesters too. It's a fun thing to do, it's not very difficult, and in my personal opinion, it is really helpful for students, so they actually can get some money without working crazy hours. I didn't say it when I talked about Russia, but in Russia, if you fail the exam a couple of times during one semester, then you need to leave and apply one more time for some other degree, or maybe it's the same degree what you want. You can try a couple of times during one semester, which basically depends on the mood of the professor, but if you fail during one semester, you failed. In Germany, the situation is different. Each and every exam you can try to pass 3 times. Normally you can try twice during one semester and then you need to wait for another year for a 3rd try, but also you don't really have to try both of the time during this semester. There are a couple of rules that surround this thing, but not very much of them. Once per degree you have an opportunity to try 4th time. So once per degree you have 4th try. And if you fail one subject, you fail the degree and you cannot apply again to a degree which has same subjects that you failed in that degree. I think it is kind of a smart move, so you don't repeat your failures again and again and again. On the other hand, there are ways to go around that. If some subject is called in one way at one university and differently at the other university, but they mean the same, you still can study at different university. But whether it makes sense, you need to decide for yourself. Small fun fact here, when you pay for university tuition, you also get a ticket for all types of transportation for the whole state. In Russia, if you are a student, you need to pay less for a ticket for the city, but here the situation is different. I think it is also connected to the fact that here infrastructure is different and distance between the cities is also not that big. I will not tell a lot about American universities because I didn't study at the university, I worked at the lab, but I will share some of my experiences and knowledge, and maybe you will write down something else that I could share with my different 2 channels, with my German and Russian channel. So based on my experience, universities are not free in USA, they're actually really expensive. How expensive it is depends on the university and its ranking, and also it depends on the degree that you're trying to get. And except for that, if I understood correctly, if you apply for the university in your state, the situation is different than if you apply for the university in a different state. That is why a lot of people try to get any kind of financial support prior to going to university, but also during your time in university you will have a lot of expenses. That is why a lot of people get into student loans, which they pay afterwards, like for 10 years or 15 years, depends on the person's degree. It was kind of interesting. At Georgia Tech, during the first year of your studying, you had to live at universities as living place, living locations. And it was really strange because these accommodations were not that great, but they were really expensive. And I was like, ooh, how nice it is that I don't need to pay that much money. Also, based on my knowledge, there are normally a couple of universities at state capital and also a couple of universities or university branches in different cities or towns in the state, but the most of them, if I understand correctly, are in the state capital. And the last fact, university ranking is extremely important. It is not that important in Germany and Russia. Yes, there are some universities that are like really cool for some degrees, but based on my knowledge, it is not as crazy as it is in USA. Like, their ranking is pretty much everything, and some people will not give you a job if you are not from the university, from some kind of ranking. I think it's crazy, but like, you do you. Although I do enjoy my different experiences, and what I told right now is more about studying, and university life is different in different countries. If you want, I can cover that too. But from studying perspective, from educational perspective, I like German system the most. A, because of the low cost. B, because of the fact that it is practically oriented. Although it is definitely not perfect, but it is way better than it was in Russia, where I had to learn a hell lot of information which you don't need. You need it only if you go into science, but except for that, you don't need that amount of information. And I know, maybe it is me, I'm more of a practical person. I like to do exercises more than I like to learn theories and stuff like that. That is why this practically oriented studying here is more a thing for me. But I know some of my friends, when I told them pretty much same information, they told me like, oh, that doesn't sound appropriate, it doesn't make sense and whatnot. That is my personal opinion, that is my personal preference. If you don't like that, I mean, it makes sense, and there are a lot of things or reasons to study in Russia or in USA if you have an opportunity to do that. But I personally like German educational system the most of these three systems. That's all. If you enjoyed the video, please drop a like. You can also subscribe to the channel. I do regular videos about different topics, and next time I'll be talking about different kinds of accessories. If you have any questions or if you have any topic suggestions, please write them in the comments below. I will try to respond to your comments. Also, I will maybe do an independent video about that, or I will read about the topic first. I do not know everything, but I do know a lot. That's all for today, and see you next time.